story of my experience on the church mission trip to Nicaragua. I was awakened by the noise in our tiny shack that consisted of 4 cement walls and a tin roof. It was the 5th day of our service trip in Nicaragua. Thankfully, I had enough layers to keep warm in spite of the draft through the open door all night. I was tired due to not sleeping because the dogs barked all night. None of us questioned their barking as we were unfamiliar with the ways things are. Before we went to bed, everyone was in a great mood, as we would finally get to deliver the water filters to all the families. We got out of bed and complained about our troubles sleeping because of the dogs. It was at this moment my friend realized her backpack was missing. We searched for it. While doing so, I realized my sneakers were missing. We searched the farm at which we were staying without any success. At breakfast, the family we were staying with told us that their chickens had also been stolen. That is when I realized we were robbed, and that is why the dogs barked all night. My favorite sneakers were stolen underscored the thief's desperation. My phone and more expensive things were in the bag next to my shoes. However, they took what they needed the most. The thing that struck me was that I'm so blessed to have the life that I live. For Nicaraguans, this had an existential impact. Their chickens being stolen meant they lost the means to feed their family, especially their little baby. Their animals and crops are their lifeblood, how they feed themselves and make a living. They may not have the money to replace their chickens, let alone buy new sneakers. This one incident captured how I should never take anything in life for granted. I'm grateful for what I have. Though losing their chickens would have a huge impact on their lives, they seemed happy and offered us all they had to offer. This forced me to alter my perspective of my life. The theft of my sneakers turns out to be a blessing, as it showed me how fortunate I am. Losing the shoes was not a big deal for me because I'm able to quickly replace them. For the first time in my life, I really understood most are not so fortunate. My service trip in Nicaragua showed me I need to live life with a deeper appreciation for what I have and never take anything for granted. Not only being thankful for all that I have and can afford, but also how thankful I am for the amazing people in my life. I have an extremely supportive family who will always be there for me. My experience in Nicaragua gave me a deeper understanding of myself. My future is guided by an appreciation of life's many gifts. The irony is that I went to help them, but in the end, they helped me by stealing my shoes.
(31, 25 to 27). She is clothed with strength and dignity, and she laughs without fear of the future. When she speaks, her words are wise, and she gives instructions with kindness. She carefully watches everything in her household and suffers nothing from laziness. Proverbs was intended to be sayings of the wise, with a clear author telling these wise words to Solomon himself. Throughout time, Proverbs has become a book of wisdom, inspiration, and wise words to live by. Today, I will be looking at a specific verse found in Proverbs. For those of you who may not be familiar with the passage, Proverbs 31:25 reads, "She is clothed in strength and dignity, and she laughs without fear of the future." For many, the pronoun she has prevented them from engaging in the passage. As a student studying religious studies in college, I found that women often found the ideal Proverbs 31 woman to be almost impossible. This, however, was not the intention of the author. The author chose to describe wisdom as female because of the empowering aspects of being a woman, such as giving birth and being the backbone of the family, which is found to be described in the passages that surround this verse. Deeper than the pronoun, however, is what I find to be the true meaning of this verse. Proverbs 31:25 explains to us exactly what wisdom does for each of us. Wisdom gives us strength and dignity. Wisdom ensures our future, and wisdom gives us the reassurance that God is there throughout every aspect of our lives. Wisdom gives us life, which is why the author chooses to describe her as female. Wisdom, most importantly, gives us the strength to trust completely in God. Proverbs 31:25 is a reminder to not fear the future because God has an ultimate plan for each of us. The strength to be able to laugh even in the darkest moments, laughing at the fear of the future, because as believers, we know there is no fear to have. For in each new chapter, setback, accomplishment, or failure, God's plan is working exactly how it should be. Today I ask that we do not view Proverbs 31:25 as an impossible goal, but to let it serve as a daily reminder that there is wisdom in all of us, and there is no place for fear in our future, only laughter and God's loving plan. Thank you.
Micah 6:8 reads, "He has shown you what is good, and what does the Lord require of you, but to do justice and to love kindness and to walk humbly with your God." At first glance, this passage seems to detail the understood requirements of being a Christian. Do justice, love kindness, walk humbly. Do love walk. Upon further consideration, however, we notice that we are given instructions to help us understand what kind of Christian God would like us to be. The enablers I spent 2 weeks with at Massanetta last summer all agreed that the 2013 conference, structured off of the words, "Do love walk," was the best iteration of the passage, and almost all were in consensus that it was the best conference that they had attended. It was my favorite too. I think what made it so universally liked and well understood was its simple accessibility. To young middlers discerning their faith and growing into their beliefs, the 3 words "Do love walk" were clear instructions on how to be a follower of Christ. For me, upon returning home from that 2013 conference, I immediately wrote the 3 words in cursive script on a piece of paper and hung it on my wall. To this day it remains. This passage directly translates into an applicable lesson of everyday faith. In a world of seemingly unintelligible complexities, simply understanding that to be loved by God, you just must do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly is comforting. But what does this statement mean? I know what I would like it to mean, but sometimes what we'd like to hear is not always what we ought to hear. Just listening to me talk about this isn't enough to have any tangible impact on your everyday lives. Although this statement is filled with conviction, sometimes it's difficult to transfer what you hear into what you can do. For me, leaving Massanetta as an enabler, filled to the brim with blooming faith and a connection with God, found myself having trouble getting to church. It was difficult for me to take what I had internalized at Massanetta and disseminate its various parts into my daily life. I distanced myself from my experience in God. Do Love Walk is meant to elucidate those daily complexities that cloud our faith and distract us from God. Doing justice can be as simple as signing a petition to save Bears Ears National Monument, or as large-scale as sponsoring a family of refugees to help them assimilate into American life. Loving kindness and showing mercy are daily tenets that guide us how we treat others. And walking humbly is our moral compass that reminds us to be thankful for what we have and aware of what others don't.